G'day all you wonderful people, welcome to Adventure Together. My name's Al and today we are going to talk about Earl Shaffer, the first person to ever complete a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail. Universally regarded as the first person to ever complete a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail, Earl Shaffer started off his journey on the 4th of April 1948 at Mount Oglethorpe in Georgia and completed his journey 124 days later at Mount Katahdin in Maine. Earl Shaffer was born in 1918 in Pennsylvania and spent a lot of his childhood hiking the trails near to where he grew up with his best friend and his younger brother. In 1941, Earl Shaffer and his best friend signed up to the US military to fight in World War II, and they vowed to each other that once the war was over, they would be the first two people to complete a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail. But sadly, when the war ended in 1945, only one of them returned home. And on the 4th of April 1948, Earl Shaffer started out in keeping his promise to his best friend to become the first person to ever thru hike the Appalachian Trail. When Shaffer set out, only 7 people had completed the Appalachian Trail, but none of them had done it in a single year or even a single attempt. They'd all done it over sections over a number of years. When Shaffer reached Mount Katahdin, he knew he'd become the first person to complete a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail. Or had he? In 2011, amateur Appalachian Trail historian Jim McNeely published a report that alleged that Shaffer's claim might have been a lie. Shaffer had walked for 4 months, and all the time he'd been on the Appalachian Trail, he kept a daily diary and taken photos along his journey. It seemed as though he had all the proof he needed to back up his claims. But in his report, McNeely argued that there were several places that Shaffer had failed to stick to the trail. One of those times was at the very start of his hike, where, according to McNeely, Shaffer started at Sassafras Mountain, which was 3.2 miles north of the southern terminus, which was Mount Oglethorpe at that time. According to McNeely, he only realised his mistake over a year later when National Geographic published an article that described the southern terminus in detail that didn't appear in Shaffer's diary. Specifically, at that time, there was a huge marble obelisk that stood on the peak in tribute to the founder of Georgia, General James Oglethorpe. Even though the monument did appear in Shaffer's book, McNeely says Shaffer added the detail as it didn't appear in his diary. According to McNeely, this would be the first in what were a series of navigational errors and mistakes that Shaffer made along his journey. Citing a long list of discrepancies between Shaffer's diary and his book, McNeely states that he believes that Shaffer skipped 170 of the 769 miles between the southern terminus and Rockfish Gap, claiming Shaffer hitchhiked and took frequent shortcuts. Shaffer himself admitted to skipping several sections as he could not find the trail. But what we have to keep in mind is that at this time, the trail was unmaintained and had been for several years. So it would have been really hard to find the trail when it wasn't being upkept. Something else that we have to consider is, according to hikers at the time, the equipment that Earl Shaffer used on his thru hike was considered grossly inadequate, even for 1948 standards. Shaffer didn't use proper hiking boots. Instead, he used walking boots, which he filled with sand so that it would toughen up the soles of his feet and prevent him from getting blisters. He also didn't carry a tent or even a stove, and the backpack that he used was his heavy-duty army backpack. When he finished his hike, Shaffer's claim to be the first official Appalachian Trail thru hiker was initially met with skepticism from the ATC, who believed it to be a fraudulent claim. It was widely regarded as unfeasible to complete the Appalachian Trail in a single hike, and it wasn't until careful scrutiny from the ATC that they did indeed recognise Shaffer as the first official Appalachian Trail thru hiker. When Jim McNeely published his report in 2011, it was widely criticised and completely disregarded. The Appalachian Long Distance Hikers Association called it BS, and the ATC remarked that it was unworthy of consideration. After his 1948 hike, Shaffer and his book brought a lot of attention to the Appalachian Trail. He went on to hike the AT twice more. In 1965, he became the first person to hike the trail in both directions when he completed a Sobo thru hike. And in 1998, on the 50th anniversary of his first hike, he became the oldest person to thru hike the Appalachian Trail when he completed the hike aged 79 years old. Shaffer was a prominent member of the ATC, and after his death in 2002, the Earl Shaffer Foundation was set up as a non-for-profit to promote his values, his achievements, and the conservation of the Appalachian Trail. So what do you think? Was Earl Shaffer really the first person to complete a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail? Does it matter that he skipped out large sections of the trail? Does it matter that he didn't walk all of the mileage? Does it matter that he hitchhiked and sometimes walked on roads instead of on the trail? What do you think about the time it took him to complete it? 4 months seems like a pretty fast pace for somebody who was hiking on an unmaintained trail. Whatever your opinion is, please leave it in the comments down below. If you like this video, please leave a like. Please consider subscribing and share this video to anyone that you know that likes camping, hiking and adventure travel. And for now, that's it from me. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.